let them know that we're pretty sure with what their goals are, they've probably broken down how many of each they need to make sure that they're hitting their goal. We love to put the financial advisors in a lot of pain. We'll ask them, geez, the 200, 300, 400 clients that you have, are you anywhere close to what it is you want to make? And a lot of those guys are working 50, 60 hours a week, making $50,000 a year because none of their clients have any money. So we'll get into that. We'll talk about how much time they really need to take for their prospecting plan, that we want them to set up a realistic plan. The non-selling professionals, especially the attorneys, the accountants, real world, probably only have 2 to 4 hours a week for prospecting. So when we're putting together their prospecting plan, we need to keep that in mind when we're putting that plan together. We'll ask them what kind of budget they've got for prospecting, what kind of activities make sense for them. We'll share with them that our clients, when we do a prospecting class, typically come up with about 25 different prospecting ideas, and that most of our clients are doing 4 to 6 things at one time. And then we'll again ask them a little bit about what they're doing, and the answer is almost nothing. We'll also talk about measuring return on investment right from the beginning, and we'll ask them how they do in terms of knowing where their clients are coming from, what's working, what's not working. The answer is almost always no. And very quickly they start to see that if they want to get good at this, that they need to put a lot of things in place that they just don't have in place right now. And the non-selling professionals are worse off than the salespeople are. We'll also ask them a little bit about referrals, and we'll go through the world-famous Mattson study of the closing percentage between cold calls versus referrals and personal introductions, and show, again, the salespeople that if they're making cold calls, they're wasting their time 70, 80% of the time, showing them the power of personal introductions. Typically, the attorneys can't cold call for business, so we'll take that off the table. But even showing them the difference between getting a lead and getting a personal introduction is really an aha moment for them. So we'll go through all of those things. We'll also ask them about, what we share with our clients as a metric is that they should be growing their business 25% each year strictly through referrals and introductions. Ask for a show of hands of how many people in the room are doing that, and we almost never get a hand. So after we go through all of this, this is when we'll start to get into the traditional WIMP junction. We'll ask them whether or not it makes any sense for them to have an idea of how their prospects are buying from them, or if that's not important, should we just move on? And they're like, no, tell what's going on? So what we'll do next is ask them for their sales process. If you think it's ugly when they try to write out what their sales plan looks like, you should hear the kinds of things that you get when you have them write out what their sales process looks like. So I had one guy in a briefing last week. His strategy was, I just need to make friends with somebody. And as long as I make friends with them, like 107% of the time they do business with me when I make friends with them. So, and this was a sales guy, not even one of the non-selling professionals. So you'll go through and they will have no idea in terms of a sales process. So then we'll take them through the prospect system, the lie, the steal. We'll ask them what they steal. Between everybody in the room, they'll come up with the fact that they steal time, they steal information. Even the attorneys in the room are not billing for the very first meeting they're having with someone. So we get them to see very quickly that they're providing a lot of free consulting. They also run into, with time, the opposite problem that most salespeople run into. With the salespeople, they'll get cut short on time when they don't set a good upfront contract. The attorneys, especially the corporate attorneys, the corporate accountants, someone will want to plant themselves in their office for 2 or 3 hours to try to get as much free consulting as humanly possible. So we talk about the fact that, how's that working for them? Typically, it's not working for them well, and we'll ask them whether or not it would be helpful for us to give them some ideas in terms of how they might be able to overcome that. And again, we'll go through the lie number 2. Hey, sounds great, get back to me next week, next month, or I'll call you next quarter. Death Valley. Everybody's been through it, especially those engineering firms, those architectural firms. We'll ask them how long an opportunity takes for them to close. Oftentimes, it will take 6, 12, 18, 24 months. Some of them are investing tens of thousands of dollars, if not more, into the opportunity. We'll tell them that we won't make them do it in the room so they don't have to get sick in front of everyone, but if they were to add up all of that time and all of that money they spent on opportunities that didn't turn into business, and they start to get what we're talking about, we'll then take them through the traditional approach, the generate interest, the presentation, and we'll go through the, calling it the $1 million presentation, the dog and pony show, the show up and throw up. They really like that. We'll go through the trial close, handling the stalls and objections, the close. Most of them will admit that when they're in front of opportunities, that's exactly what they're doing. We'll talk a little bit about that tug of war back and forth between the prospect system and the traditional approach. We'll ask them who's in control. Half the room, it takes them a little while to get that it's the prospect that's in control. We'll share with them that there is some good news, and the good news is that they're really trainable, because the second step of the prospect system is to steal all the information they can, and the second step of the traditional approach is for us to do a great presentation, give them all of that information exactly when they want it, so they will get it. The attorneys, the accountants will ever ask them if they've met with somebody, meeting went really well, they gave them all kinds of great strategies, and then for whatever reason the prospect never came back to them. They start to realize that, oh geez, maybe this is happening to us too. And then we'll show them what happens when the strategies collide, the prospects appear interested. So we go out and do fact-finding analysis, prospect acts motivated. So we go into a demo, proposal, presentation. Prospect gets the information that they're looking for. We try to get some kind of commitment, close a contract. Prospect does whatever they can to avoid the commitment. We try to handle the stalls and objections. Prospect disappears. And we go and track down, chase, do all of those things. So we get them in some pain by going through the traditional whip junction. The modifications that we make, we try to take the word sales out as much as possible and call it business development, client development. The salespeople don't care. They've heard the term business development before. The law firms, the accounting firms, they're comfortable with business development or client development. If you've got a lot of attorneys in the room, one of the terms that they use, at least in the States, is generating new files. So we'll throw a little bit of that language into it. But it's primarily the same presentation that you would typically give. We then take them through the submarine. And then what we do after we've shown them the system and the process, then we will show them what are some of the services that we provide. And we'll show them a little bit of everything that we do, the President's Club, the assessments, strategic management, coaching, consulting, the customer care program. We have what we call an executive forum. Our executive forum is a mashup between the management program and a peer-to-peer roundtable for business owners. We've got everyone in our executive forum, from a managing partner of a law firm to business owner of a travel company, of a moving company. And guess what? They've all got the same issues, the same challenges. So they really like playing off of each other. We do our program every other month for 3 hours. Share with them that we will customize the training, that we've got President's Club where people come to us. For larger groups, we will go out and customize the training for them. To give all of you just a little bit of an idea before I continue, our business mix is about 50% non-selling professionals, 50% regular sales folks. So we share that with folks. We, again, revert back to the list of all the different clients that we've had. So it's a 50-50 mix for us. So not only do we have them in the briefings together, but we also have them together in President's Club, together in our foundations. We run a 10-week foundations, and then it rolls into President's Club. They are all in the same class together. and we haven't had any issues. In a little while, you'll see some of our lessons learned, but we tried to do things another way before, and we created 3 times as much work for ourselves, and we're making less money. So everybody goes into the same program, and it is almost never a problem. The only thing that you may need to modify a little bit is those non-selling professionals might need just a little bit more coaching so that they can get a better sense of how to incorporate this into what they're doing day to day. But otherwise, they're sitting through the same sessions. They have the same exact challenges. They'll come back with the same kinds of success stories. So it's really pretty cool when you start to see it work together. We share with our clients, by the way, we treat the salespeople the same exact way we treat the non-selling professionals. We share with them during the course of the briefing that we really have a 4-step approach, that our 4-step approach really pertains whether it's an individual investing in themselves to come to us or a really large organization. The first thing that we do with all of our clients is we evaluate. We find that Divine is great for the non-selling professionals. Divine has a business development that tests for all of the same things that the unique value sales does. It softens the language a little bit. And we have gotten almost no pushback at all using that assessment. We will also use the extended disc to help give us a better sense of who it is that we're working with. We share with folks that after they take the assessment, because we need to know what their strengths and weaknesses are, we also need to know whether or not they're trainable or their people are trainable. They'll start to ask, what do you mean by trainable? Why wouldn't someone be trainable? We'll ask everybody in the room if they know that person who always, whenever you try to do something new, says they've got 10 years of experience, they've got 15 years of experience, but they're always kind of at the bottom of the production. And people say, yeah, no, I know those people. We say, we find that those people have 1 year of experience 10 or 15 times over because they refuse to learn from their mistakes. Those are the people who won't benefit from our program. So don't bother wasting your time, don't bother wasting your money. So we assess everybody up front. For us, the delivery, we're not really doing the boot camp model all that much. Our delivery is the President's Club model, ongoing reinforcement training, whether they're coming to us once a week for Foundations and President's Club, whether we're going to them and doing a corporate in-house. For the most part, we're doing our corporate in-houses either once a week or once a month, but it's that ongoing reinforcement training model. We provide coaching for all of our clients, and we share that up front. That's something that the non-selling professionals really need at the beginning because this is brand new to them. It's way out of their comfort zone. And then the thing that the attorneys, the accountants, the engineers, what they really like is we talk about the fact that we're going to track things up front. We're going to hold them accountable. We want them to make sure that they can measure our return on investment for the training. That especially for them, they're going to be moving way out of their comfort zone, doing things that they've never really done before. So we need to make sure that they're seeing ROI. And you may have seen it from our case studies up there. We share, especially with the non-selling professional firms, we're sharing with them that we're looking for them to get about a 10 times return on their investment. And if you're ever talking to or working with large firms, that can be really easy because a lot of large engineering firms, law firms, accounting firms have multiple practice areas that almost never talk to each other. And they can get a couple $100,000 return just by learning how to cross-sell. Nothing else if they never went out and did any prospecting except just cross-selling amongst themselves. They'd increase their business by hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not more. So we talk about that return on investment right up front, show them just a screenshot of the Divine assessment. Go through the Sandler philosophy a little bit. Salespeople are professionals. Prospect needs to qualify for our expertise. Some prospects won't qualify for our time. They laugh at this. Wishing and hoping, praying is not part of the sales process. That's not a step in the selling system. There needs to be a start and a finish to every business development opportunity. So we will then make them give us lessons learned, and we will go around the room and ask for things that they're going to start doing, things that they're going to stop doing, make them state that publicly. Helps a little bit with that accountability. People start to see that people in different industries have the same exact challenges they do. They've got the same lessons learned down that they did, which really helps down the road as we put them into programs with other people who aren't in the same business that they're in. We try to qualify hard in our executive briefings. We push for the no up front. We share with them that it's a neurosis that we have, but that if somebody puts down yes, we're going to call and call and call and call until we get a hold of them. And the last thing we want to do is be a major pain that if they're even waffling, they should mark no. We'll share with them that the training is thousands of dollars, not hundreds of dollars, that they need to invest time, money, and there needs to be a willingness to change. And they should only mark yes if they're ready to have a conversation to see whether or not what we do might be helpful for them. And that's how we wrap up the briefing. So in a minute, I'm going to talk a little bit about how to leverage the book. But before we move off of the briefings, any questions on the briefing?
Just a quick question. Is there a need to not refer to it as sales or sales prequel as opposed to business development or whatever?
We make a conscious effort not to use the word sales too much because for especially the attorneys and the accountants, sales is a four-letter word. So, and it's, oh my God, no, I'm not a salesperson, I never. So that's why we really try to soften the language, call it business development, client development. It makes them more comfortable, and the salespeople, it doesn't bother them one way or the other. Any other questions?
Is it free?
Our executive briefings are free. There's about 6 franchises within a 10-mile radius where we are. So, most people are not charging for the briefing, so we just don't charge for the briefing. But doing that follow-up by sending that pain survey out a week in advance, and then following up with a call the day or 2 days before gets us good attendance. We've also got some head trash that if somebody's paying $59 or $79 for a briefing, we don't want them to think that we're the $249 solution. We're an expensive program, so we'd rather give it a little bit away for free to qualify or disqualify, because for me, qualifying 10, 15 people at one time versus doing it one at a time, so we don't charge for our briefings.
How many weeks do you need to prospect in order to invite?
Great questions. The question was about how much lead time do we have, about how far in advance. We typically give it about 5 to 6 weeks. So our briefings are about 5 to 6 weeks apart. As soon as we finish with the one briefing, the next day the invitation goes out for the next briefing the next month.
Have you found that certain of these individuals, like CPAs, don't attend come the springtime because they're busy?
Yes, you will not get a CPA to attend between January and the end of April. With the CPA firms, we will try to meet with them now to get some kind of commitment to figure out and get started with the program in May. But real world, you're not going to get those CPA firms to do anything during tax season. It's just not going to happen. And if you were to try to really force it, it would be a total disaster because the people wouldn't do it. They just wouldn't have the time and they wouldn't get anything out of it.
Did you say you were putting them in professional advantage or PC?
We put a good question, something I forgot to mention. We put them in President's Club, so they start in foundations and then move to President's Club. We've been doing this for a long time. My father's had the franchise for 20 years. I've been doing this for almost 14 years now. So our clients don't bring their materials to class. So we give the traditional salespeople PC kits. We give the non-selling professionals the professional advantage kit as well as our book. We just make a couple of handouts for class in terms of what the topic is. We have PowerPoints that go during class. So we don't have them bring their material in. And so that way, everybody's sitting in the same class at the same time. So that's a really good question. And the materials we use for the non-selling professionals is the professional advantage material. We also give everybody a portal. Quite frankly, the non-selling professionals almost never go on the portal. But we give them the portal as well as professional advantage.
So attorneys very often are in court in the morning. So what is your PC class for them? Is this something you're doing at 3 to 5? Or something?
Another great question. Our classes are early in the morning. So we do our classes from 8 to 10 in the morning. What we will share with those attorneys, especially the litigators, is that we understand that they may not be able to get through all 10 sessions in 10 weeks, and we will often extend it and say, you know what, if it takes you 12, 14 weeks, if you need to come back later for one of the sessions, that's okay, and we'll be a little bit more flexible in terms of how much time they have to get through, and that's how we'll address that issue. If it's an easy topic, somebody who we know is pretty easy, we'll also share with them. If you miss a class, we can spend half an hour or 45 minutes together, go over with you what you missed in the session, and then you'll be caught up. And then when that comes back around, you can just go back and sit in that class when it comes back around the next time. We do it early in the morning. A couple years ago, our client said, gee, you know, and we do it Monday morning. We do it first thing in the morning, right at the beginning of the week, before things get really busy for them. We also find that less people are traveling Mondays and Fridays. So when we tried to move it to the afternoon, the experiment lasted less than a month. Fires came up in people's offices, things came up, so all of these people who were sick of getting up in the morning wanted to come in the afternoon. A third of them would show up. After 3 weeks in a row, we said, okay, you had your chance, all the classes are in the morning again. Any other questions about this?
Can you detail the conversation with the attorneys when they say, you've got to come to my firm and do this in-house, we bill by the hour, we don't want to leave the office?
That's great. If you've got 10 or more folks, we're happy to come out to the office and put together an in-house program for you. Real world, because the accountants, the attorneys, they've got the billable hours, the larger firms, if you're doubling the amount of time they have to spend in the training because they're traveling back and forth, they're probably not going to do it. So just make sure that you charge enough and there's enough participants to make it worth going out there. The nice thing about going out there is when we do in-house programs for law firms, accounting firms, we're typically starting at 7:30 in the morning, or we're starting at 4:30 in the afternoon, so that it's not during prime time with the billable hours and when they're in front of folks. And that's how we get the buy-in. They love to do it early. They're done. Sometimes we'll cut it and make it an hour and a half for an in-house rather than 2 hours. They're done by 9 o'clock. We can be back in our office by 9:30. And we are charging the same for them that you would for a sales organization that you're doing an in-house for. So we price it the same exact way. If they've got a lot of people, we'll discount it after they hit a certain threshold. But we are charging the same exact way we are for the sales organizations. Other questions?
Do you do your briefings at your office, or do you go to like a fancy place?
We do our briefings in our office. Our office building, in our office, our conference room fits 10 or 12. We're in a 30-story building, and the office building has a conference room for their tenants that they might as well just rename for us because we're in there more than the rest of the building combined. That gives us more space, so we just do it right there. Once in a while, we will put a lot of time and effort into doing a really big program, and we'll do it at the Union League Club in Philadelphia, which is a very nice, fancy club. But our regular briefings, we just do them right in our office.
Your four-step approach, you mentioned four tracking system. What is it that you use?
We make it up as we go along. So I hear I haven't seen it. I hear Sandler's got one or two tools that might help with, helping organizations with tracking. But for the most part, what we're asking for is that they use it and they report back to us when they're getting meetings, when opportunities are closing. But to say it's an official tracking system would really be a major stretch. So we'll have them do it with what they're doing there. The other thing, if you're doing a corporate program for the non-selling professional firms, you'll be able to identify those one or two advocates really early on. What we try to do is get them to give one or two public success stories at the beginning of the training so that other people in the firm will see that it can work, and nobody wants to be last in front of their peers. So once 2 or 3 people start to adopt it, start to have success stories, other people will start to give their success stories as well. So just want to share one other thing with everybody real quick. I think most of you know that we wrote a book that came out at the last school. So show of hands, how many people have read our book? That's awesome. And just, what did you think of the book? How was it? And I'm sorry, I was a little distracted. What did you think of the book? So, with the book, how many of you have shared the book with clients, with prospects, with other non-selling professionals? And one or two of you have talked to me in the hallway. Would you mind sharing with the group what kind of feedback that you've gotten? Jim, do you want to?
No, I did a mailing for about 20 CPAs. Led to a client engagement, and long story short, we've been working on them for about 6 months. The book was a nice complement to that effort. Led to a session that we did 2 weeks up in Atlanta 2 weeks ago. A lot of business up in Atlanta, guys, if anybody. At their